I recently saw Inside Out 2. So, how we humans work and operate, how beliefs create a sense of self, that you have enough beliefs about, who we are, what we're all about, how the world operates, and then a sense of self begins to develop. If you have an idea of what your sense of self is and the beliefs that are operating and what that enables which emotions to come up and be in charge of your control center, probably you're going to have some idea of like why your life is the way it is. And if you can do that for yourself, you can probably also do it for other people. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. All right. Today I'm talking about knowing yourself and knowing others for fulfillment and success through the lens of the movie Inside Out 2. That's right. I recently saw Inside Out 2, so that maybe you don't have to, but I would highly recommend you do because this is probably one of the best movies out there to bring you success in your business life and your personal life. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today because there's so much in here that'll give insights into like how you're living your life and maybe even more importantly to understanding how other people are living theirs so then you can maybe better work with them and yourself and have the life that you're meant to have. So before we get into that, just kind of want to, how you been? What's been going on? How's summer so far? Because if you're watching this just as it's coming out, it is early July. The 4th of July holiday in the US is finished up. And so summer is definitely happening. How's your summer been? Is it what you've been expecting it to be? Are you finding ways to relax or get some adventure or try something new? Let me know. Definitely look me up. Let me know what's going on. And if not, like it's not too late. This season is still going on. And to my Australian listeners down there, I know that it's wintertime. Wintertime's also a good time to maybe do something new, a little different, get into some snow or get into something else or just get into yourself. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, now's a great time to check in and go, am I where I want to be? Because I was recently somewhere where I thought I wanted to be there, but turned out I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is really where I want to be for too long. So I live, as many of you know, I live right on the coast of the Pacific Ocean, just south of San Francisco. I can see the ocean from where I'm recording this right now. If I had my blinds open, which I don't because the sun just comes in and it really fucks up with yeah, the shadows and stuff on my face. So for you, so that you get the best appearance and you get me undistracted, I am blocking off a fabulous view. That's how much I care about you, my beautiful, beautiful listening audience, my listener, my loyal listener that I'm so grateful for. Thank you. So it's usually really, really cool out here. I wanted to go out to the inland area to go go check out some water and some old friends and some new friends. So I made the trek inland just before 4th of July. I thought I'd spend all of 4th of July out in this area. And as I'm going out there driving, I see the temperature gauge on my car is gradually increasing as I get further and further away from the coast. It starts at around 70 degrees and then it's like 80, 89, 95, 99. Holy shit, 106. Wait, 111. And it topped out at 113 fucking degrees. I didn't know that my thermometer in my car went that high. I don't think I'd seen that before. So it was so hot. It was one of those where it was so different than what I was used to that it was just kind of like, I don't even register this as bad. This is just different. This is just interesting. Yet after spending one day out there, I was kind of like, hey, enough of this. I'm ready to go back to where I live. There's a reason why I chose to live where I live because I enjoy it. I enjoy the sights, I enjoy the temperature, I enjoy the weather. And so within about an hour and a half, I go from, this area where again I was up to about 111 when I left. And when I got back, it was I think 66 degrees. I think on my social media you can probably see I'll get some pictures posted of those different temperatures the 113 versus the 66 degrees, all within a 1.5 hours drive. And the reason I tell you this is because often we think we are so far from big differences in our life, but really it can be maybe as little as an hour and a half worth of journey, worth of effort, right? And that can have a dramatic difference in the life we're going to experience. Because in an hour and a half, like I can prepare and record a podcast episode. You could write a chapter in a book. You could come up with a performance. There's so many things that you can do in an hour and a half that could have just as big a difference in some other part of your life as this hour and a half drive had in the temperature I was experiencing. So that's the reason why I tell you this is not because like, just to make you jealous. Although I'd really like to make you jealous in a good way that maybe you go like, shit, why am I somewhere that I don't enjoy, that doesn't delight me? Because let's face it, there's going to be some things with wherever you live that are like going to be less than ideal. That's part of it. Like for example, like where I am, it's middle of summer. It rains, it's foggy, it's cold. That happens. But then on the days where it's crazy hot, other parts just, 15 minutes away from me, it's the most delightful, beautiful, it's sunny, calm, gorgeous. And I don't mind the cold and the fog. To me, it's a great trade-off. The question is where are you at in terms of your weather, but also other aspects of your life, because the weather maybe is just a little bit of an indicator of how we're feeling about other parts of our life. If you're not happy with the weather where you live, I'm guessing maybe you're not so happy with other parts and you're just putting up with it. Maybe you're just being resilient. And maybe it's time to stop being so resilient and to start doing something differently. And what gets us to do things differently? Is it more information? Is it more knowledge? Is it more skill? No, it is actually our emotions. And that is the topic of today is emotions, because that is who the stars of the show in the movie Inside Out 2, emotions are the stars. That's the important thing. So if you haven't seen Inside Out 1, I'm not going to recap it totally, but Pixar movie from quite a while ago. That's also a phenomenal movie. But this second one, I would highly suggest it to anybody who's in business, to anybody who has relationships, to anybody who is a human that has emotions, because this is by far probably the funnest, most enjoyable, and yet most easiest to understand how we humans work and operate. Because basically, the premise is that we're getting to see inside the mind of this main character, Riley, who in this movie is now a tween, like going from junior high into high school, the ninth grade. And so basically, it's the movie starts out where just things are doing so well thanks to how things ended up after the first movie. So in the first movie, we get introduced to these five key emotions: sadness, fear, anger, disgust, and joy. And these emotions are basically in the control center of the mind, which in the movie is shown as like a kind of like a literal command center where they have buttons and things. And so depending on which emotion is in command, the the person, this Riley character, does different things, right? So it's like if fear gets in charge, it's like, I want to get out of here. Let's run away. Anger's there, then an anger's like, oh, we're gonna fuck this shit up. We're gonna mow them down and let's yell at them. But if joy is just like, yay, this is great, what a fantastic experience. And we find at the beginning of this movie, effectively, Joy is the leader of the group. Joy is in charge of the command center most often than not. It's every now and then the other emotions, have a little bit to say, but mostly Joy is in charge. And if anything isn't in line with what Joy wants, then that is not, that gets kicked off to the subconscious. And what's really great is that this movie kind of shows that how beliefs create a sense of self, that you have enough beliefs about, who we are, what we're all about, how the world operates, and then sense of self begins to develop. And in the beginning, the sense of self that is developed is I'm a good person. Isn't that beautiful? Things are great, going along. Like, what could go wrong? And then, uh-oh, what happens? What happens, around that age of 12-ish, whatever, right? Puberty. So puberty comes, and what happens? Uh-oh, a whole new group of emotions starts to move into the command center. So we get to meet ennui. which is basically kind of like a boredom slash tiredness, just like a ugh, ugh. Maybe those of you that have teens or remember being a teen, or shit, just even remember the pandemic, you probably experienced some ennui of just like, ugh, what is, does this even matter? So you got ennui, you've got embarrassment, there's envy, and then the big new rival emotion is anxiety. And anxiety is just like, hey, we got to worry about everything because we have an 18-year plan, and if we're not doing every little thing the way we're supposed to, then we are going to be out on the streets. Life is horrible. Things are going to be totally fucked up. And so anxiety will do whatever it takes to get what anxiety knows is the right thing to do. And who gets kicked out? The original emotions, they get kicked out along with that sense of self that I'm a good person. And now anxiety's in charge and is creating a new sense of self. And what starts to take root with anxiety in charge? This sense of self of I'm not good enough. Now, the big question is, with the our original emotions, joy and charge being kicked out, and this new sense of self, is Riley doomed to just be perpetually like the sense of anxiety and not good enough and doing all these things, probably messing up and just being pain in the ass to be around? Or will our friends, our original emotions, be able to come back and reconcile? And will there be a way that all the emotions can work together so that there can be a healthy sense of self? I'm not gonna spoil the movie, but it is very enjoyable, very fun, very funny, and then very enlightening about how emotions have these interplays within our control system and dictate what we do. And we also see how some of the other characters, the parents, they have their control centers and how their emotions operate differently and are in charge at different times. And why is this so important? Because if you have an idea of what your sense of self is and the beliefs that are operating and what that enables which emotions to come up and be in charge of your control center, probably you're going to have some idea of like why your life is the way it is. And if you can do that for yourself, you can probably also do it for other people. And then it's going to make more sense of like, oh, why is this person behaving like, their sense of envy is probably kicked in, and that's why they're trying to do all of these things to get what I have because the envy's kicked in or whatever the emotion is. So it really is just this great metaphor to be able to figure out like what's going on and what's in control. And so often we like to think like, oh, I just do the rational thing. I'm doing what makes sense based off of the data that's coming into my life. And those that are in the tech space, that are professionals, that are in business, biggest of like, oh, data driven. And I'm going to be honest, if you think that you're doing what the data is telling you, you're completely deceiving yourself because you choose what data you value. And that is an emotional decision. There is an emotion that is going like, yeah, I'm going to listen to this data. I'm going to listen to this piece of information, which is why, especially as election time in the US is starting to kick up more and more and more. And you try to talk to somebody on the other side, and you're just like, how come they're not listening to reason? How come they're not listening to reason? I just saw a post on Facebook where somebody was like, oh, a friend of mine, they just told me who they were voting for, and they just won't be persuaded. It's because it's not about the facts, it's about the emotions. And the sooner you understand you're working with the emotions, that's who you're actually working with, and it's not the facts, the sooner you could actually maybe find ways to allow in more information, because maybe they can allow sort of a balance of these emotions and allow more in, and then get to a place of like a commonality, and then maybe there can be a shift in like what information people allow in. And so whether this is not about politics, although it is, but it's also about business. It's also about your relationships. Because if you're not speaking to what emotion is in charge and speaking that language, and then maybe allowing for a shift or a change in that emotion to something that maybe allows for some more rationality, then that emotion is just going to entrench and just be more and more powerful, and nothing is going to change. And this goes for yourself as well. Sort of the more you don't understand what emotion is operating at this point, then you're not going to actually be able to change maybe your beliefs. You're not going to be able to change that sense of self to live the life that you really want. And what's the life that you really want? That's a whole other topic. But just knowing, just having this awareness of who's in charge, emotionally speaking, is so huge. It's huge. I can't underline how important this is to know, like, are you in a state of anger? Are you in a state of fear? Are you in a state of embarrassment? Because if you're aware of these, then you can work with that. You can go like, ah, this is how I am right now. Because if you're not able to know where you are and accept that, then as much as you might be like, ah, I want to be, I want to be feeling so amazing. I want to be happy and I want to have all of this financial success. But if you don't know that you're just in the fit of like pure anger, just pure anger and frustration, then you're not able if you're not able to actually get to it because you don't know which direction to go in, because if you don't know where you are, even if you have some idea of where you want to go, the route you're going to take is going to be completely wrong and likely to take you off course. That's why I highly recommend Inside Out 2. It doesn't matter if you have kids, don't have kids, are a kid, are an adult, I would recommend it. I went and saw it, there's a little bit like I'm doing research, for this show, but it's just a great movie. You're gonna have a good time. Probably the funnest, most enjoyable way that you can actually enjoy learning about yourself, learning about other people. And the more you know yourself, the more you know others, the more you can be successful while being fulfilled. Because if you're just focused on success and just checking things off and you're ignoring the emotionality, that's effectively like letting anxiety rule. Then that's going to be doing things that are not going to be serving you, not going to be serving those around you, and you're not going to be able to be empathetic with other people. So this movie really is a great tool to understand, to kick in that empathizing ability muscle that can be strengthened. Sometimes some people are better talented at than others. I'm very empathetic. I'm also incredibly humble. I'm the most humble person that is around, actually. That's a joke. Um, Yeah, so I'd highly recommend the movie. It's got great drama with great information, and there's one emotion who keeps trying to pop up, but they're like, "No, not yet. It's too soon." And that is nostalgia, which I notice comes up more and more, where it's like, "Ah, remember when?" There's a great South Park episode called "The Member Berries," and this is effectively why so much of our entertainment is based off of old shit that keeps getting remade over and over again, because as people like the stuff that they liked when they were younger because they know it and they remember maybe the good times, or they just remember that they remember it. And it's just, I remember when this happened. I remember when we were friends with this. I remember when I saw this song. And they're just like, no, it's too early to get into nostalgia, because if you're in nostalgia, that means you're not in the now and you're not creating the future that you want to be creating. So not to say that nostalgia is totally bad, irrelevant, but I did think it was kind of a funny play on like, hey, you don't want to get too stuck in nostalgia too soon. It is something um, and ultimately, it's about finding a balance of the emotions. It's not about favoring one over the other. It's about recognizing that they all have a place to play in operating our life. And when we allow that and sort of allow an intelligent uh, uh, utilization of all of the emotions, and don't try to get rid of one or overly weight another, that is when we are in the flow of an amazing, enjoyable human experience. So, with that, I'm going to wrap this one up. It was a great movie, Inside Out 2. I highly recommend it, because it really is just I feel like it's just a very human story, because sometimes there can be you go to a Disney movie lately, and sometimes it's kind of like, is it going to be a good story, or is there just going to be some messaging or something, or are they just changing things just to change things? This, I felt like it's just a great movie, great story. I feel like it could probably appeal to anybody. Um, and maybe I'm biased because I felt like they made this movie especially for me. There's a little bit where I'm like, oh my gosh, this story of the main character feels like my emotional arc as a human. So I might have to contact a lawyer to see if I need to sue them. Maybe they got my book and they took some of the stories out there and some of the things like that. And they're just like, oh, well, just instead of the main character is Justin, we're just going to change it to Riley, and he won't, and Justin won't notice. So I'm going to have to investigate that. But I do believe that this really is a human story that anybody can relate to. And even if you're like, oh, I don't think I've ever experienced anxiety, I don't think I've ever experienced joy being overwhelming in my life at any point. Just think that it could be any one of these emotions. And that if it's not necessarily, this might not be your story, this could be the story of somebody you care about or somebody that's important in your life that you work with, and that might be the key to understanding them and working with them better and being able to have a very fulfilling life relationship connection while being incredibly successful, because that's really what I think a lot of this life thing is all about. Is, can you be fulfilled, can you have fun, can you enjoy it while doing some amazing things for the world, right? Which is going to bring in that abundance of good, um, good salary, good income, all that stuff, while having good relationships and fun, amazing experiences. And it really all starts with inside. So, inside out, begins inside. So this is a great movie. You can go out to get an inward journey. So then your outside is going to be even more incredible. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up. It's so great to be connecting with you again, and I'd love to hear how your summer's going. What's been great so far, and what is it you're looking to still experience, right? Because I think this is, it's a little nostalgia, right? When it would be summer break from school, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna, go to the pool more, or I'm gonna go on this trip or do this other thing. Even as adults, I think sometimes we kind of, even though we might not have a summer break anymore, that can be a little bit of like, oh, I want to have a little something special for summer. And I think that's okay. And so make your summer special wherever you are in the world, and let me know what that is. And if there's some way that can assist, let me know. Maybe make it a topic of the show. Um, yeah, how cool would that be, that you're like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? And then a couple weeks later, that's the show. You got your answer. Think about it. Think about it. If you ask, you might get it. All right. So with that, thank you so much, and good day. Thanks for tuning in to Engineering Emotions and Energy with Justin Wink, Ph.D. Today's episode resonated with you? Please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Your feedback not only supports the show, but also helps others find us and start their journey of emotional and energetic mastery. You can also help by sharing this podcast with someone you think will love it just as much as you do. Together, we're engineering more amazing lives.